One of us is missing. This is the All That Chazz Stress Relief podcast, brought to you by Do the Thing. If you'd like to get my latest sleep hack, check out allthatchazz.com so you can get a better sleep and a better rest tonight. That's the last post of the on allthatchazz.com. And if you want more than that, you can get the book, Do the Thing, by Robert Chute. But today, we're doing something a little bit special. First, a couple paragraphs from The Dharma Bums by Jack Kerouac, and then we're taking a field trip. Stay tuned. Alva couldn't sleep and came out and lay flat on his back in the grass, looking up at the sky, and said, "Big steamy clouds going by in the dark up there. It makes me realize we live on an actual planet." "Close your eyes and you'll see more than that." "Oh, I don't know what you mean by all that," he said pettishly. He was always being bugged by my little lectures on samadhi ecstasy, which is the state you reach when you stop everything and stop your mind and you actually, with your eyes closed, see a kind of eternal multi-swarm of electrical power of some kind ululating in place of just pitiful images and forms of objects, which, after all, are imaginary. And if you don't believe me, come back in a billion years and deny it. For what is time? Don't you think it's more interesting just to be like Jaffe and have girls and studies and good times and really be doing something than all this silly sitting under trees? "Nope," I said, and I meant it. I knew Jaffe would agree with me. All Jaffe's doing is amusing himself in the void. I don't think so. I bet he is. That was Jack Kerouac riffing on the void in The Dharma Bums. We're going to riff a little bit about the void today, just like Jack Kerouac. Well, maybe not quite like Jack Kerouac. But, yeah, I'm going to talk about the void. Because I've been looking into the existential abyss today. And I have some answers that I hope you will find comforting in the end. Time for a field trip. Join me.
Number 14. Yeah, this was 601. Yeah. 014.
I'm sitting in a Ben Tan restaurant. Vietnamese food. It's a good place. Fanciest bathrooms in town. And really good food that I don't have very often. And I'm kind of bummed. I've got a table that lets me look out a window, and it's a busy day. It's sunny. It snowed hard yesterday, but it's sunny again today. It's warming up. Spring is here, and it's bringing people out, all that heat. But I'm not in the mood for busyness. I'm thinking about the void, and time, and memory. Here's what happened today. I opened up Facebook, and I found out that someone I knew as a child very well had died. She was my sister-in-law once. Then she divorced my brother, and she became my ex-sister-in-law. I hadn't talked to her much in recent years. Not at all, really. I mean, after the divorce, it seemed like kind of a betrayal to keep in touch, and I don't live on the East Coast, and I barely keep in touch with my brother, so anyway, I knew her well. She was the one who clued me into the fact that, spoiler alert, Santa Claus does not exist. She let me in on the secret. And we didn't agree all the time. I remember she called me smug. She might not have been wrong at that point. I was a teenager. I'd seen her a couple times since with family things, but basically Since I went off to university, I hadn't seen her, and so it's been many years, really. But it was still a shock to see her face on Facebook, smiling at me with the news that at 67, she was dead. She passed away in her sleep, which that's a fine thing for most of us to hope for. But it was a shock. I hadn't given her a whole lot of thought in recent years, but as soon as I found out she was dead, it all came flooding back, of course. Here's the thing. There is an allure to nihilism, just as there is an allure to religion. Nihilism says nothing matters, and religion says that everything matters. And when you're confronted with death, it could swing either way. I used to be religious because I wanted there to be meaning, and now I fear that there isn't any. And so I went for a drive, and I ended up at the Ben 10 restaurant because I wanted some good food. I wanted to feel something good, taste something good. And I found myself staring out the window and looking at all that traffic and all that busyness in the rising heat, and across the street was a Petrocan gas station. And the void came round me, and I embraced nihilism, and time stopped. It was at that point that I thought about all the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs, they ruled the earth much longer than we have as a species. They might end up having a longer run than we did. But as I looked across at that gas station through the painted glass, across the busy traffic, I thought, things are very transient. People you know will die. And then after a couple generations, their parade is over. Their memories are gone, ephemeral, just dust in the wind. And so, when time stopped, I thought, gee whiz, at least with those dinosaurs, they got made into gas. But my ex-sister-in-law was cremated and buried very quickly. There will be no funeral. And what memories remain for her children, for Facebook, for whoever she knew, her partner, whoever's lives that she touched after she stopped being in my life and her lifeline continued. That's all there is. That's all that's left. And it's kind of a depressing thought to think, hey, those dinosaurs, because they at least fueled a trip to the grocery store for somebody, they don't live on, but there is an afterlife for them. But I don't think there is one for us. And that is the allure of religion, is that we want meaning and we want the party to continue in another dimension. We want there to be meaning to our lives, and for that meaning to continue on. We don't want the death of the ego. We don't want the death of the body, unless we get really tired and very old, and then we're ready for the death of the body, if not the ego. And there I sat in the Ben 10 restaurant. Wonton soup, fresh shrimp roll, sweet and sour pork, coconut rice. And I thought, This tastes good. And I'm doing this to myself. I'm torturing myself with these memories of my ex-sister-in-law. Torturing myself with thinking so hard about the transience of our existence. So, this is a stress relief podcast. Where's the stress relief, you ask? Good question. I have an answer. Let me pause to tell you that one of the things that is helpful is to have a lot of peak experiences. So when my children were born, I thought, look what I have done. I have done an amazing thing. Could everybody please just send me a check because I should be done work. There should be a plaque in the ward. I've brought these beautiful genius babies into the world, but the world moves on. The busyness continues. Even though all that is really important, it's also very individual. The world does not notice all the death. The world passes on. The world continues to turn. The world doesn't notice all the birth. The world is busy. We all have our individual lives. We move on. But the more peak experiences you have, the more of a rich life you will experience. The more of a rich life you will enjoy. Peak experiences, doing things, being social, being part of a social network, friends, family, belonging, doing good, helping out. And that ties into the solution to whether you are drawn to nihilism or whether you're drawn to religion. And the essence of my answer comes down to a little bit of fiction. And I love fiction. I write fiction. And I think we really need fiction because fiction provided an answer for me that religion never could. Or at least never did. Not for me. It comes from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It was an episode with Angel, not my favorite character on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He also went on to have his own series, which wasn't as good, but it was okay. But my favorite character was Spike. I love Spike. My favorite line is the Giles the librarian almost gets killed, and Spike turns to him and says, Did your life flash before your eyes, Giles? What was that like? Cup of tea, almost got shagged, cup of tea. But my answer to bringing down your stress comes from Angel. And he was basically condemned as a demon to hell. If he was ever to be dusted, he would go to hell, and that would be that, and there was no redemption for him, he believed. Just as there may not be any redemption for us. We may not create gas for gasoline for the next species in the future. So he says, I'm here now, and I'm just going to do good, because that's what I'm supposed to do, without thought of reward or punishment. He's just going to do what he's supposed to do, and that is to do good. And there you have it. We are a part of a parade. All parades end. Change happens. Life is transient. And maybe there's an afterlife, and if you'd like to believe that, that comforts you, you go right ahead with that. If you believe that life has no meaning as an atheist, there is a strange comfort in that as well, because without thought of reward or punishment in the next life, you are living this one richly. You're paying attention. You're paying attention to the time you have now. And when you pay attention to the time that you have now, then time starts up again. And you're back at the Ben Tan restaurant with me. And all the cars going back and forth, they don't look so much like ants busy about their meaningless lives anymore. There are people going back and forth, living their lives, pursuing peak experiences, surviving, persevering, and trying to do good. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Either way, it's going to be okay. Live for this life or live for the next one. Just do good. And your stress will come down. This has been the All That Chazz Stress Relief podcast. If you'd like more of these podcasts, check out the archive at allthatchazz.com. If you'd like to support this podcast, go to the button at allthatchazz.com where it says Become a Patron, and check out my Patreon page, Rewards for sponsors. Thank you to RF Casey for being the first to sponsor me. And check out all the links to the books. I have sci-fi, crime thrillers, apocalyptic epics, lots of peak experiences for you to enjoy when you want time to stop or slow down, or you want to get out of your head. That's another way to do it. I'm Robert Chute. Thank you for listening to the All That Chazz Stress Relief podcast. See you next week.
What kind of broth do you add? Chicken? You want to add another? It comes already.
Oh, it comes with
Yes.
it? Okay. So just is a big short ribs.
Okay. That one is the short ribs and the I'm doing that. Which was